and welcome to the Arizona Liberty Podcast, episode number 125. I'm Neil in Arizona and always broadcasting to my loyal army of 12 listeners, one for each apostle and a bonus for Judas Iscariot. Right now, it's about 7:30 p.m. on this beautiful Tuesday, April 1st, 2025, you darned fool. Now, something really cool is happening on the podcast. We're starting to get more engagement again. If you and I spoke this past week or so, I just want to say I really appreciate you, and I really appreciate you reaching out. So spread the words, friends. This is a community podcast. You're a part of a very elite group. We don't have any advertisers. It's not a popular podcast. We answer to no one. We are very biased, but this is a good podcast. We follow real stories. We provide real commentary. We don't play hype. We don't do gimmicks. We don't gaslight. We do what matters. Now, stay tuned because in the next episode, we're going to be breaking down Senate Bill 1352 in Arizona, and that is a bill that deals with your property rights and how the legislature really sees you. And there's a spoiler alert on that one. You're probably not going to like the way your so-called representatives view you as both a citizen and a property owner in this state. Now, here's a small update. Our Substack is growing too. We're getting more followers on our Substack. Look for Arizona Liberty Podcast on Substack.
Okay.
We're growing slowly, but we're growing steady.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
And if you've already subscribed, we thank you. And we're going to be posting a lot more articles in the next few weeks, digging deeper into some of the stories that we cover here, and movie reviews, entertainment, things like that. And I have no idea how to promote on Substack, so if you do know how to, drop me a line on that too, because I have not found an ad engine or anything. There's no tricks. It's just you put stuff out there and you see what happens. So we're going to go ahead and get started in our story here. Our first story is the trannies win. Yes. We're going to kick things off with a tale of courage, civil rights, and an issue our forefathers would be very proud of. A federal judge has stepped in to save the sacred 4-year-old tradition of drag shows at the Texas A&M University. That's right, Draggieland is an extreme priority, and nothing screams higher education like a boa, a glitter cannon, and a lip sync battle at the Rudder Theater. Now, the university's Board of Regents made a move to ban the shows, stating that they often involve unwelcome and objectively offensive conduct based on sex, which might include the mockery or objectification of women, which, to be honest, is kind of shocking because in 2025, who knows what a woman is anymore?
I'm just saying words at this point.
I mean, this debate is ridiculous and stupid, isn't it? Now, a federal district judge, Lee H. Rosenthal, well, he came on board to remind us that free speech includes fake eyelashes, sequins, and simulated striptease in campus auditoriums, all funded by the alumni and various FAFSA grants. Oh! She ruled that banning Draggieland was a viewpoint and discrimination, a phrase that in legal terms says, shut up and let them dance. Now, the Queer Empowerment Council gets to hold their big event, and in their own words, it's a celebration of pure joy. Because, you know, the truth to the matter is, one of the requirements of being gay is being dressed in drag. Now, sure, the country, we're approaching a housing crisis, gas is $5 in some states, and food banks are running out of soup, but hey, this is the hill that we shall die on. Absolutely wonderful. Now, so congratulations to Draggieland. May your choreography be tight, your wigs be secure, and your constitutional rights remain bedazzled. In a recent incident at Mann Elementary School in Long Beach, California, a 5th grade student named Genesis Thomas received a controversial prize after raising $160 for a school fundraiser. The reward? A toy monkey and a toilet with fake feces. This has sparked outrage from the family, who deem the items inappropriate and unacceptable. No! Genesis' family is demanding answers and an apology from the school, expressing concern over the nature of the prize. The school has yet to comment on the matter. The incident has ignited discussions about the suitability of prizes in school fundraisers and the importance of ensuring that rewards are appropriate and considerate of all students.
Well, Brother Neil, here we go again. Back in my day growing up on the shady streets of San Bernardino, the one thing I could always count on was my World War II generation teachers. Strict, serious, and didn't play. Ain't no way in any timeline they would have thought to hand a child a plastic monkey and a toilet full of fake dung as a reward for anything, not even detention. And I'm not just talking from theory. I must have moved a dozen times as a kid, whether it was Delman Heights or Muscoy, and I never saw this kind of foolishness. But this isn't about that little girl alone, or the toilet prize, or how much money she raised. It's about a bigger problem in the culture. Nobody seems to take anything serious anymore. Even Ice Cube. Yeah, that Ice Cube is going on Tucker Carlson talking about how education's being twisted up. That tells you something. Despite all the mess we grew up in, we still turned out as good blue-collar folks. We worked. We had dignity. We had direction, even if the outside world was crooked. Now these kids get weird toys, weird flags hanging in the classroom, and weird lectures about what gender they are or aren't. It's all running off the rails. You think parents might pull their kids out and say, nah, we're not playing this game. But nope. Instead, they complain on Bleeder or Life Invader like that's gonna change anything. Just because somebody clicks like or argues with you in the comments don't mean you're making a difference. It just means you're feeding the algorithm. Sometimes I wonder if this whole circus is on purpose. You seen Zuckerberg's eyes lately? They call him human. I call him reptile. From the IE to the SB, it's your lifelong pal, the OG from San Bernardino.
Let me paint a picture for you. Asheville, North Carolina, early spring, the pollen is thick, the tourists are lost, and somewhere deep in the Appalachian canopy, an apex showdown is about to commence. Rodney Clark, just a man, maybe a lunatic, maybe a folk hero, stares out his back window and sees it again. The bear. Not a metaphor, not a spirit animal, not a funny guy in a furry suit with pronouns in his bio. A real bear. Black-furred, dead-eyed, probably casing a joint like it's a Circle K trash bin at 2 a.m. Now, what does Rodney do? Well, he does exactly what his common sense tells him to do. He puts on a bear suit. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The man zipped himself into a synthetic fur, squared up to Mother Nature's garbage disposal unit, walked outside like it was just another day at the office or Chuck E. Cheese. Now, the bear looked at him. He looked at the bear, and for one brief shining moment, the fabric of the universe trembled. Then the bear blinked, turned, and hightailed it back into the woods, confused, defeated, and maybe even a little bit embarrassed. Now, to the untrained eye, this might seem like idiocy, and you'd be correct. But to those of us with boots caked in desert dust and a healthy fear of an HOA bylaws, Rodney Clark is the spirit of liberty made flesh. This man didn't wait long for the game warden. He didn't call the mayor. He didn't start a change.org petition. He became the treat. Now, a Wyoming grizzly would have turned him into an appetizer and flossed him with femur for sure. But that's beside the point. What's the real more of the story? The modern world pushes you too far. And when wildlife gets bold, the government gets weird. And the HOA says you can't have a car on blocks in your own driveway. You don't fold. You put on that suit. You become the beast. And you stare into the madness right in the face. This is not a drill, folks. This is America 2025. Bears, beware. Well, folks, welcome to yet another episode of Your Government at Work. Back in 1988, the CIA, never one to turn down a wild idea if it involves a black budget, decided to find the Ark of the Covenant. But instead of archaeologists or, actual research, they went full paranormal and they hired a psychic. That's right, remote viewing. Viewer number 32 to be exact, and while the document doesn't name names, let's just say it wasn't Ingo Swann, Ed Dames, or Paul H. Smith. Now, what did viewer number 32 see? A gold-trimmed wood box covered in seraphim, buried somewhere in the Middle East, surrounded by men in white robes speaking Arabic. Sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? Probably because viewer 32 got their entire description straight out of a Cecil B. DeMille movie. You know, the type. Those Technicolor Sunday epics, they ran every Easter for 30 years. And look, I'm not saying viewer number 32 plagiarized the Ten Commandments, but when your generation grows up saturated with Charlton Heston parting the Red Sea, it's hard to tell where your memory ends and where remote viewing begins. And the men dressed in white robes? Yeah. Okay. So you weren't just flashing back to a dorm room in 1975, bell bottoms on the floor, Deep Purple on the turntable? Children in Time echoing through the haze of incense and expired government funding? Look, I love Deep Purple, and I've got nothing against bell bottoms. In fact, I love bell bottoms, but let's not get confused with the extended jam session with ancient biblical revelation, all right? Even Joe McMoneagle, one of the CIA's more well-known remote viewers, basically admitted that this was just a training exercise. Translation: there's no ark, there's no evidence, and just a fun little psychic improv session paid with your tax dollars. So the next time you hear the phrase intelligence community, remember, sometimes it's just a guy in Virginia wearing headphones channeling Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Oh, wow. Isn't that cute? So, Donald Trump declassifies all these CIA documents, and what do we get? Deleted scenes from Raiders of the Lost Ark. Go CIA. Seriously, you guys are crushing it, because it's not like the CIA has ever done anything worth mentioning, right? Just a flawless track record of death, mayhem, coups, disappearances, freedom. And now they're feeding us plot summaries from old Hollywood movies, like What's Next? Remote Viewer 33 confirms the Holy Grail is under a Chick-fil-A in Plano, and these remote viewers, I like to call them welfare psychics, because honestly, they just pulled the first image that popped into their heads, probably from one of those Bible epics with Charlton Heston and a thunderous soundtrack. And listen, I grew up in a Christian conservative home, and we still watch those movies every Easter. They're gorgeous. That music, I still get lovely chills. So maybe viewer 32 wasn't having a vision. Maybe they were just having a nostalgia trip. Like, hey, remember when special effects were made with real fire and people dressed like they meant it? Anyway, I can't wait to see this year's CIA budget. Didn't the Q crowd say the CIA was going away or something? Wasn't it supposed to be dismantled and replaced with, I don't know, a time-traveling Navy SEAL psychic task force? I'm confused. All right, I'm out. See you on the next one.
That's the world for you. I tell you what, I hear these stories about the CIA, and it just never ceases to amaze me at how ineffective the CIA is. Now, today's second segment is about something that might seem like inside baseball, but it tells you a lot about how Congress actually works.
I have so many questions.
Representative Paulina Luna, a Republican from Florida and a rising figure in the MAGA movement, just resigned from the House Freedom Caucus. And she didn't go quietly. She called out her former allies for what she says was a backroom dealing, blackmail, and betrayal of pro-family values that they claim to stand for. Now, here's what happened. Luna introduced a bipartisan proposal. It was co-sponsored with Democrat Brittany Peterson that would allow new moms and dads in Congress to vote remote for 12 weeks after having a child. Now, think about that. 12 weeks of remote voting, not to be confused with remote viewing. Not some revolutionary upheaval here, okay? Now, just a temporary measure to help a handful of members, particularly new mothers, stay involved while recovering from childbirth. To get this proposal to the floor, she used a discharge petition. It's a little-known mechanism that lets members bypass party leadership if they get a majority of signatures. And she got those signatures. She got over 200 Democrats to sign, and she got 11 Republicans to hop on board. But this is when the knives came out. Speaker Mike Johnson, who's been outspoken against proxy voting, called her proposal unconstitutional. Members of the Freedom Caucus threatened to shut down the floor if her petition was to advance. One Republican, Representative Tim Burchant, was reportedly told that his bill to defund a Taliban-linked program, to defund Taliban-linked programs would be blocked if he supported Luna's petition. That's how petty and transactional this got. And another reason why I just despise the Republican Party, but that's a whole nother conversation. Now, the GOP leadership attached language to a rule bundled with the quote-unquote SAVE Act that would kill her petition entirely. In other words, they used a bill about election integrity to stop a vote on family leave accommodations. And remember, Luna has never once used proxy voting. Meanwhile, one of the loudest voices against her bill has used it over 30 times. So Luna resigned from the Freedom Caucus. In her letter, she described it as a group that once stood for accountability and transparency, but had now turned into everything it claimed to oppose. Backroom deals, intimidation tactics, and procedural sabotage. Now, there's some irony here. Most of these caucuses, okay, including the Freedom Caucus, in my opinion, and in many other people's opinions, people like Ron Paul, for example, they believe that these caucuses operate unconstitutionally. They create shadow hierarchies, which you've seen right here in this article that I'm citing out of the Gateway Pundit. They create these hierarchies within Congress, wielding informal power in ways that bypass open debate. They issue threats behind closed doors. They tie unrelated legislation together, like the SAVE Act that I just cited, and they block reforms that don't serve the internal power games. They become factions, not of ideas, but of control. So Luna, for all of the flaws that I pointed out in the past, she has a right to ask, why does a modest reform like this get met with sabotage? Most importantly, why is a party that runs on family values so resistant to a basic family accommodation? It's not just this story, though. It's the whole stinking machine. Over the century, Congress has written laws upon laws and rules upon rules with loopholes upon loopholes. So many layers that you can't even see the original floorboards anymore. Every new procedure is supposed to be a safeguard, but most end up becoming tools for delay, deflection, and deception. And eventually, The so-called reformers get comfortable using the same tools when it suits them. And that's why this Luna story reveals not a clash over ideology, but a system that punishes anyone who tries to operate outside of the invisible deal-making that runs this place. And if a new mom asking for 12 weeks of remote voting is too much for the system to handle, then maybe the system is the problem. Now, Elizabeth Warren, we've talked about her net worth. And Nick Sorter, a reporter, an independent reporter, he put this out on Twitter a few days ago. He said, I asked Elizabeth Warren how she achieved $12 million net worth. We talked about that the other day. On a $200,000 salary, prompting a reply from Elon Musk inquiring as well today. Elon Musk announces in the Oval Office of Doge, they will be investigating public officials with high net worths and low pay. Our government finally listens to us. We are the media now. Okay, well, you can say that.
Senator Warren, I just want to answer a question. How did you get a $12 million net worth on a $200,000 salary in Congress?
So they're, following her.
Excuse me. How did you do that? You can keep trying to block my camera. We're on a public sidewalk,
So she had all these people blocking their way, and they couldn't get to her to ask her this question. And we asked the question a couple weeks ago. We asked it right here on the Arizona Liberty podcast. We went down the numbers. We reported what the official numbers were, which I believe Elizabeth Warren's original or published numbers is that she's worth $8 million. The math that's being done on the side is at $12 million, but she's got homes in Connecticut worth $5 million. And okay, fine. I am all about people having $5 million homes. I'm good with that. I don't have a problem with that. Heck, on certain weekends, my wife and I drive out to Scottsdale and Paradise Valley, and we try to steal landscaping ideas from the $5 million club. But what is irritating about these people that say they're out to look for they're out there sticking up for the little guy? They are so filthy rich. And, Elon Musk is filthy rich, and we've gone over that. But you know what? Elon Musk, we're going to talk about Elon Musk in another episode here. Mr. K is going to be coming back on. But Elon Musk gave a quick brief on what Nick Sorter is talking about.
And also, could you mention some of the things that
That's
your
Donald
team
Trump
has
talking.
found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about $30 million,
right,
etc.?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing, in which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So, we're looking at,
And we talked about that here on the podcast. When we first fired up the podcast, we had made friends with some people that were heavily involved. They were up there in their age, but they were very involved in helping legislators write bills. And this one lady that was she had helped write a lot of bills, and she straight up told me, look, they do land deals. Real estate is the answer. They always know what bill is going to be approved and how it's going to affect real estate. So, I'm not saying this is how Elizabeth Warren, has all of her riches, these, McMansions out there in Connecticut and stuff like that. But, here's how I look at it. If you're a fan of Elizabeth Warren, then you should just leave me alone. You know what I mean? You should just let me do what I got to do in life to get rich. I'll never get rich like that. But I mean, you should at least, let people like me maintain my own property to do things the way I do, because you're gods, okay? GODS with a small g. these people that you love so much, that you hold so dear to your heart, these people, they're rich, and they are getting rich off of the taxpayers. That's a fact. Elon Musk is right. And we're going to be talking about Elon Musk and what kind of guy he is in a future episode. Like I said, we're going to have Mr. K coming back on, and he and I go back and forth on Elon Musk. He's a little more pro Elon Musk than I am. I'm whatever, but you know what? I'll do what I can to downsize government, even though we're going to be talking about that in a little bit here about the true downsizing of the government, and is it really being downsized? But we've got Mark Kelly, right? So you got Mark Kelly, his anti-gun stance, and the very war machine that he pushes so hard on Arizonans. We're going to talk about something that should concern every person in Arizona, especially everyone who ever believed politicians were supposed to represent us. That would be the people. Senator Mark Kelly has made quite a name for himself and his wife, Gabby Giffords. They have been staunchly anti-gun, and for years, they've built careers around advocating for strict gun control here in the United States. Now, of course, as we know, Gabby Giffords, she suffered an attack from a gunman, and she was shot in the head, and that was a very terrible thing that happened to her. So, this is not, making light of what happened to her, but they have always been dedicated Democrats, and they've always been a big time. I had somebody tell me that she was pro-gun before all that. No. They have been hardcore left-wing, Ruth Bader Ginsburg type of Democrats. And they've held press conferences, they've funded organizations, they've pushed legislation, all in the name of reducing violence and saving lives, as they say. But now, Senator Mark Kelly, he's actually going to Ukraine, okay? He is going to Ukraine. He is posing with tanks, smiling next to the military hardware, and supporting the kind of machinery that wipes out entire blocks. Not just people, but just devastates. And it makes me ask, if someone is truly anti-gun and anti-violence, why are you cheerleading this stuff in a war zone? This is not a hypothetical question, and it's not theoretical. It's literal. War equals death. It means millions of people get displaced, cities get flattened, and lifetimes are destroyed. And apparently, it's acceptable to these guys as long as it's in the name of, open quote, winning, closed quote. But ask yourself, what's the win? What is the win if the price is that high? There's a lot of strange threads around the U.S. involvement in Ukraine. And personally, I've noticed something. A lot of these politicians, they make solo trips out there. They're not part of these delegations. They're not on an official capacity. They are our representatives. These are people that they are in D.C. to represent the state. But they go, they shake hands out there, they take photos, and they come home acting like they just returned from Normandy. And here's where it hits home for me. Mark Kelly, he's an Arizona senator. He's not a senator from Ukraine. He doesn't represent Kiev. He's supposed to represent Florence, Apache Junction, Globe, Goodyear. But if you go to his office, he's never even there. Now, I'm not saying he's a traitor in the historical sense. He's not selling state secrets to the enemy for all we know. But in my opinion, he's a man who is bought and paid for. I don't know who's buying him. I don't know who's paying for him. But you don't end up that far removed from the lives of regular Arizonans and have that big of a bank account unless somebody is cutting you a check or promising you something more valuable than public service. And if you're against violence, then you need to be against violence. You don't get to disarm your constituents while you pose with tanks overseas. If you're going to represent us, then actually show up to your job.
Why don't we hold a protest meeting in the school auditorium?
And Attorney General Bondi has said the same thing. I believe that is exactly what will happen.
Do you know who they are?
We're coming for them.
Do you know who those generals are?
We know. We do.
Yes. And hopefully the prosecution will be for RICO and an organized criminal enterprise, which makes the penalties even more serious. And now to Jessica.
Yes, absolutely. These are serious crimes where the organizers and pushers of mass violence will go to prison for a very long time.
That's right. Okay.
And I hope they see this segment.
Now, what on earth did I just play you? Well, it was regarding this Tesla controversy that we're seeing. The question is why are these open quote, close quote, vandals being given 20-year sentences? All they're doing is vandalizing stuff. Well, they kind of laid it out in that little segment there that I played. But technically, what's going on with these burning Teslas? Well, you have domestic terrorism. People are networking to attack Tesla dealers, which is different than an angry vandal throwing a brick through a front window. The list of Tesla owners' homes' addresses are being circulated, and it is making them targets. In other words, Tesla owners are being doxxed and attacked. And because this is a coordinated effort, the crime is different than typical vandalism. So when we're talking about the damage on these particular Tesla models and stuff like that, you know, we've talked about Tesla on here. We've talked about how we think Teslas are lame. We talked about how electric cars in general are pretty lame. We talked about how dangerous the batteries are. I think it's starting to show now with these clippings you see of these Teslas being burnt. Look, I'm not a fan of these cars, but I don't think anyone has a right to be doxxed. I don't think anyone does. But yet here we are, okay? Here we are, and we are being told that these people are simply just vandals, okay? Nothing to worry here. They're just people that are they're just vandals, and they're damaging property, and they should just be booked for their sins, and that's that, and then they should be let go. Understand something. This is what happens when you start implementing Marxism into your world. Because when you start having to scale it back, the Marxists get really mad and they start destroying stuff. And that's a fact. And that's something that people have to understand. If everybody was maintaining their own responsibilities from the beginning, you wouldn't be dealing with this. But we live in America, and America has become a very dependent country. Very dependent. It's become so ridiculously dependent on government. I don't know that many people that don't tap into government in some way, shape, or form. I don't know a lot of people. Almost every veteran I know gets disability. Almost everybody I know that has some kind of job or something is somehow getting the government in some type of contract. It is strange. And it has created this do not downsize government, because if you downsize government, you're downsizing me. Friends, that's Marxism, man. That's the whole point. The whole point is to get everybody in, because it doesn't add up. I keep saying this. The math doesn't add up. I've had so many people tell me, particularly I used to hear this in college a lot. I used to hear people say, well, you know, Marxism, it kind of looks cool on paper. And I go, dude, have you done Marxism on paper? Because if you do Marxism on paper, oh no, it does not look good on paper. It looks horrible. So I don't know where people think that, you know, I don't know where people think that Marxism looks good on paper. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I got bad culture. And I'll just say about Operation Warp Speed, it was an extraordinary accomplishment, demonstration of leadership by President Trump. When he promoted Operation Warp Speed, he was looking at all of the different remedies, including vaccines.
Therapeutics, everything.
Therapeutic, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, famotidine, even chlorine dioxide. And he was not looking at shutting down our country for the year, forcing people to wear masks for a year, forcing all social distancing that did not have any scientific basis, which Dr. Fauci has now acknowledged. He said,
that was Robert F. Kennedy Jr. praising Operation Warp Speed. Yes, you have it. The rhetoric of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is slowly going towards the pro-vaccine Trump. You know, before Trump was president, he used to go on segments, talk about vaccines. He used to say he thought that they were related to autism, all kinds of stuff. The rhetoric is going the other way, okay? Liberals, break out your pom-poms. You should be really excited right now, right? All you fake liberals, you should be really excited. You've got RFK Jr. coming over to your side. You've already got Trump on your side. He went on Bill O'Reilly. He talked about how he's double vaxxed. He's so proud of himself. This is a winning moment for you all, okay? Now, Peggy Hall. We've talked about Peggy Hall. Not a whole lot. I have so much respect for Peggy Hall. And let me tell you, she is going down a warpath. Man, is she on fire right now. Peggy Hall is the healthy American. She is on spot. Peggy Hall, she did an analysis of the plan for what is being called MAFA. MAFA, is it? MAHA. Sorry, I've got it wrong here. Plan for MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. Now Peggy Hall, she went over this huge budget. The link to the budget is going to be in the show notes on rss.com. So I go to rss.com, Arizona Liberty Podcast. If you can't find if you I'm throwing websites at you, go to ArizonaLibertyPodcast.com, click on listen, and there's a bunch of listen links. There's a link to the RSS, which is the main page where all of the sound comes out of. And then if you just click on listen, there's a bunch of different podcasting services on there. Amazon's on there, and there's a few others. I think Spotify's on there, and or you can listen direct from RSS. Now, Peggy Hall, she says when it comes to the human services plan, they're consolidating 28 divisions down to 15 to centralize operations. You've got job cuts. Some job eliminations may be a good thing if done thoughtfully with careful scrutiny of what's truly necessary. She talked about, on one of her videos, by the way, this is on one of her YouTube videos, I believe. She talked about centralizing power, expresses discomfort. She expressed her discomfort with centralization, which is, I agree with her. Centralization is not good in government. That is the problem. And we're going to talk about that in a second. I'm just going over the summary. These are my notes I took from when I was watching the video. She believes that public feedback is the right path forward, and she does have some sort of admiration for Kennedy. She was very sarcastic about it, but wishing him well, and hopes that he can right the ship, as she said. And here are some of the action items that she actually supports. And the reason why I took these notes and put them on here is because I agree with her too. He wants to freeze all recommendations, and possibly that's referring to the vaccine or mental health mandates, stop mandatory safety tests, which is basically making children victims of vaccine injuries. And the only profit that comes out of that is big pharma, and they harm children. What do you say when they say 17 children were tried for this trial? That means they sacrificed children for this. I mean, who are we kidding here? And the bottom line of her video is that she is calling for what I would say is a thoughtful reform. You want decentralized control and real oversight, especially when it comes to these health-related mandates. Now, I'm telling you, the more I listen to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I played that clipping, the more he is sounding pro-vaccination. I'm telling you, it's not a good thing. The direction this Maha group is going, a lot of people are like, hey, it's in the right step in the right direction. What are you going to say when these guys tell you that you must get a specific vaccine? You're right back to 2020 and 2021 all over again. Look at all these medical professionals. We were, it's been a few years, but we were interviewing nurses, and these nurses were getting fired from their jobs because they didn't want to get these untested vaccines. You got to remember the COVID-19 vaccine, despite how much I doubt their testing, they weren't even tested. They just threw the thing together. And Donald Trump is out there, well, I'm the king of it. Dude, you have got to walk those comments back, but he won't.
You remind me of a wind-up toy.
He won't. And it is kind of why I am very skeptical of these people. I'm very skeptical of our leadership right now. I was skeptical of the Bidens, of course, obviously. But I don't play loyalty, okay? Those people don't play loyalty with you. They don't play loyalty with me. So why on earth? What are you, a fanboy? Like, what's the matter with you people? These people, they need to be held accountable. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I'm with Peggy. I'm with Peggy on this. But something, something needs to be done. We cannot have these guys coming in and changing their tone because, I don't know, did Guido meet him in the parking lot after work? I don't know what's going on. So anyway, this is just something to think about, guys. Remember, those guys are not loyal to you.
Now I say unto you, do not be swayed by the false prophets of blockchain, nor the zealots of emotional purity. For a man with a stack of 20s in his nightstand shall sleep better than the fool checking his crypto app at midnight. And lo, though the dollar be crooked, it is still the rod by which the world is measured. Amen.
Welcome to segment 3. This is the unfortunate case for the dollar. I do not like the Federal Reserve, and I don't trust it. I don't celebrate the dollar. If you handed me a laminated certificate that said fiat money is a blessing, I'd use it to level a wobbly table. But here's the thing. I still hold cash. Yeah, I know. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Got that out of the way. But the sentence alone that I hold cash will trigger every libertarian purist and every Q-boomer on Bleeder. But if you've been paying attention, really paying attention, you'll understand why I'm saying this. The dollar is rigged. It's manipulated. It's the weapon they use against you. And that is exactly why you should hold it. Look, you've heard it here on this podcast. I stack silver. I go to silver conventions when I can. Trust me, I stack silver. I would say I am a silver purist. But even the market has been slammed artificially for years now. It constantly gets shorted. It's constantly papered over. It's suppressed. I know this, you know it. But unless the whole thing crashes, and I don't mean little cracks here and there like they do, but unless that whole thing burns to the ground, cash is still going to run your table. And when your friends, your gold bugs, your silver bugs, your crypto freaks, when they say that you are off your mark, just simply take out your app, show them the value of the dollar. I'm doing it right now as we speak, okay? I'm pulling up my app, right? I've got crypto in there. I've got silver on there. Silver yesterday was at $34.40, hovering around there. Today, it is $33.85. Bitcoin was at 105 at one point. It is now down to 84,000. Solana, the projected new future of crypto, went from $220 down to $124. Imagine if you were holding dollar bills in your safe. So be careful is what I'm really saying. And when the government tells you we're downsizing the government, or when your friends say they're dismantling the Fed, I always ask, based on what? Because the last time I checked, and this is for Dave from X22 and these Q people, they all keep saying they're going to cancel the Fed, and it never happens. Donald Trump is president now, guys. They just did the Make America Healthy Again budget. $1.8 trillion. Yeah, I'm being quiet after I say it. That's where we're at. There is no debt ceiling. Congress will not create a debt ceiling. The federal agencies have gotten bigger, not smaller. And they are approving billion-dollar automation programs to make bureaucracy faster at controlling you. Let me say this again. The federal agencies, they have not gotten rid of one federal agency. They have done a reduction in force, and they have taken those agencies and they have lumped them under other agencies. You know what that is? That is a cold case bankruptcy restructure. That's what that is. They are not draining the swamp. They are simply installing digital plumbing. So you can sit and listen to your friends tell you about Q. You can listen to your friends tell you about how they're going to dismantle the Federal Reserve. And you can go out, and I do. I buy silver. I buy it. It has been a practice my wife and I have been doing for almost 2 decades now. That is called stored wealth, by the way. Buying silver, buying gold is called stored. And you're going to ask me, well, what about gold? What about the moves in gold recently? It's a good question. They're obviously up to something, aren't they? But did you own gold? No, you didn't. Or maybe you did. Maybe you've got gold. I have some friends that have a lot of gold, and they're very happy right now. But if you own crypto, which a lot of people own crypto now, to include myself, I have some crypto. I don't have tons of it. I have enough. I don't have enough to pay off my house if it goes to a specific number. I'll tell you that. Because crypto kind of scares me a little bit. So I don't have a whole lot of it. I have some. I like the technology. I like blockchain technology. And I use it. I experiment with blockchain technology. But all your friends that are saying, what about gold going up? Did they have the gold? I'm going to tell you something very interesting that seems to happen to the average American. The average American, for some reason, continuously buys stuff that goes down over and over again. My wife and I, we about 6-7 months ago, we helped host a financial conference. I did the sound there for friends. It was a favor for friends, and they had guest speakers, and it was very amazing at how many Americans constantly have the rug yanked out from under them in terms of investments. People got up and they talked about their 401k, how they worked a job for 20-something years and kept putting money in the 401k. They talked about how the guy had the hill, or it looks like a mountain range, and the mountain range continues to get taller and taller and taller, and it's a graph. And by the time you turn 65, you can collect it. But they forget to tell you that when you get to collect it, they tax you again. So they tax you on your payroll, and then you put the money in the bank. And I guess technically that money isn't being taxed, but you're being taxed for your payroll, right? So you're still getting your butt handed to you. And then when it comes time to collect that, they tax that, like as if it belongs to them. Let me tell you something about cash. In 2008, when there was the housing crash, I lived in a house that we paid $136,000 for. My wife and I bought this house for $136,000. We started getting notices in the mail saying that our house was worth $239,000. And I remember when I got that notice in the mail and I laughed. I felt like I was watching a sketch comedy on Saturday Night Live. That's what I felt like. I laughed so hard. I took that thing straight to the trash can. I had some family members. They got those same notices in the mail too, and they took home equity loans out. And you know what happened? Literally a few months later, crash. Now imagine if you never took those loans, and imagine if you just had cash stashed away, right? Imagine if for 20 years you were stashing cash. Some people did that. You could have went out and bought all kinds of real estate, all kinds of stuff. You know why? Because you were holding $1. There are so many scenarios that you could point at where this horrendous Federal Reserve note that is made by a bank that is a private entity that operates on the outside of the U.S. Constitution, it operates on the outside of Congress. They did the Federal Reserve Act, I think in 1930. It was a completely unconstitutional act. 1930. It's now 2025. This thing is not going away anytime soon. When they decide not to do spending ceilings, understand the Federal Reserve is going nowhere. And the truth to the matter is I am not giving you a cash motivational speak. I'm being realistic. The dollar still runs the world, not because it's noble, but because it's dominant. It is the wrench they use to manipulate the world. And I would rather hold the wrench than rather be beaten and stripped by it. It's not a loyalty to fiat. It's not about trusting the people that use it and use it to manipulate. It's about being strategic in survival over emotional rebellion, because cash will always win when the power goes out, when the bank freezes, when the stock market collapses, or the dude with the XRP tattoos on YouTube realizes moon prices were never coming. You don't have to love cash, friends. You just need to respect the role it plays. Respect it like a mafia boss, because that's exactly what it is.
And in today's financial forecast, the dollar remains the most manipulated, corrupt, and indispensable tool on earth. Keep it close. This has the Arizona Liberty Podcast signing off. And in today's